the program, Gwedi, and thanks for taking the time.
Thank you very much, Leanna.
What kind of disrepute is the ANC referring to?
Leanna, from that National Executive Committee, we dealt with at least 5 provinces. Just looking into the state of the various provinces, I can tell you that one, we looked in the Eastern Cape, we discovered that there are problems in local government. And we're dealing with them changing more in Nelson Mandela Bay, we're going to Mbizana, we went to the Northwest, we dealt with Tlokwe, where we looked into Ngagamtiri Mulema, there are problems at that level. Then we came to the Free State, which was disbanded by the court in December. We got an update of the work done there in terms of auditing having been finished, now getting into Presidential General Meeting. So there's work that is happening in the organization. Then we came to the situation of the ANC Youth League. There was a long debate about the Youth League because there were views that were saying, look, let's try to help the Youth League rebuild itself. Actually, at the end of the day, everybody agreed that, listen, it's very difficult to have a leadership team that has caused so much harm to the organization, recycled and come back and do something different. We rather totally dissolve that team, put an interim structure, rebuild it. Among them, those who are working hard will actually come back when there's an election in a conference. That was the thinking. Many things has happened. You can look back into what the Youth League related, how the Youth League related to the ANC. And you'll see that actually there was a point where the relationship was almost collapsing, harming the ANC every day.
Yeah. Well, we saw that. The South Africans were watching it. Everybody was watching this. Why did it take the ANC so long? Why did you let it run its course for so long that the Youth League has to now actually get to a point where it has to be rebuilt instead of fixing it when we could see there was a problem starting?
The ANC is old. It's 101 years. And that makes it have a confidence that it can correct anybody. Actually, in the ANC, we don't believe that anybody cannot be corrected. So that gives us the patience of dealing with things and take a long time before we take the harshest action. And this is what happened with the Youth League. Actually, we've been close to the Youth League. You remember that its president was charged in 2010, charged again in 2012 with 2 other members of the leadership. And the behavior didn't change. They said, listen, we are not recognizing this decision of the ANC. We'll continue, we'll support our president until 2014. The ANC continued talking to them, nudging them to say, listen, you don't behave like this in the African National Congress. Please correct and mend your ways. But it continued into Mangaung. The issue of Mangaung, people always make Mangaung and think that the ANC begins and ends at Mangaung. That's not what happens. The behavior in the lead up to Mangaung impacts on the ANC up to today. The ANC must continue looking and reviewing itself and correct the situation.
Yeah. Many are saying, and I know you have denied it, but many are saying that this is post-Mangaung. This is the fact that they were not supporting the re-election of President Jacob Zuma. And this is the consequences that they have to pay. We look at Limpopo, we look at the Youth League.
Let me tell you, there's something, let me give you Gauteng, for example. I can assure you Gauteng is not even on the agenda for purging. It didn't support Jacob Zuma. Why don't we go to Gauteng and raid it? Because it played within the rules. It continues disagreeing, having a different preference, but played within the rules of the organization. It treated elections and nomination with respect and appreciated that beyond the conference, the ANC must be together, whether your preference wins or not. So everybody is looked from that angle. But people who go to the extreme, we're looking at one example in the National Executive Committee where the Secretary of Limpopo, for example, said, no, listen, this NEC must not come here. Your interested parties disappear. Now, when you deal with that now, you are not dealing with nomination and election. You are dealing with the character of the ANC. That is a unitary organization. It elects a leadership, and that leadership gets changed in a conference. And you think that at any time, because you don't want this one, you want to elect a new one, they must stop before the end of their term. All those issues were put before the NEC. It assessed them and took a decision.
All right, let's have a look at what's going to happen to the future of the ANC Youth League now. We're talking about rebuilding the league. What's going to happen to the relationship between the mother body and the Youth League now? Is it going to be different? Is it going to work differently?
You see, the Youth League was formed in 1944. It always related to its mother body. It has its own up and downs. We took one of the harshest decisions ever taken against the Youth League because the level of discipline was in decline. Total decline. And we thought that we must arrest it. And we're going to put a team of young people. We'll assign 2 or 3 or 4 NEC members to work with that team and say, go back to the regions and provinces. That's why we said there were problems that were due for conferences, halt on those conferences. Because we picked up other problems about the lead to those conferences, where people were beginning to buy membership, do many things, so that they get elected and try to gatekeep for those who do not support them. Say, arrest that, we'll come back to it and deal with it, because we didn't want to have a situation where people become leaders by default. People must be elected to the leadership of the Youth League, and the Youth League must be rebuilt such that it changes this perception that to be a leader of the Youth League, you need to be rowdy. We must reassert knowledge. We must reassert the understanding of the issues affecting young people and be the face of those issues. That is what we want to build, because if we don't change the face, people will take longer to appreciate the important role that a youth league should play.
Yeah. Looking at the previous leaders, I mean, the top 6 are gone, Julius Malema is gone, and now we're looking at the likes of Ronald Lamola and the rest of them. They're all gone. What about their political future? What happens to them? Anyone
who actually repent and work hard and remain in the structure of the ANC in a branch or in a region, I can tell you, come the National Conference of the ANC Youth League, they will be re-elected. But the Youth League will be wiser. It will actually have an opportunity to say, but this person doesn't help the cause of the Youth League and the young people in South Africa, and not elect that person.
So the door is open to them in the ANC?
They're not expelled. We've disbanded the structure. That's all we've done. And said, let's go back. And it gives people, actually, when you take that decision, you're not only disbanding the structure, you are also rescuing the people who are in that structure, so that they must have time to take a back seat, take time, take stock, come back if they want to come back, and work differently.
Yeah. Let's move on to Limpopo's now, the executive province. Factionalism. This was the reason cited for the disbandment. You know, there's also other provinces where factionalism is evident. Can we see some action happening in there as well?
If you can tell me and give an example, but let's talk about Limpopo. You know, in Limpopo, we went to a provincial conference, and they came out of that provincial conference very much hostile to the national leadership. Immediately, they said, listen, let alone that we're going to a national conference, there was going to be election. Total hostile. There was a reshuffle of the cabinet in Limpopo. Every MEC who didn't support that lineup was removed. Totally, everybody. And then we watched that space, talked to them quietly, but this is factional. That proceeded to a number of municipalities where mayors were removed, mayoral committees were reshuffled, reconstituted, basically hitting anybody who didn't support a particular line out. So we had to work with them quietly. You see, now you say it is post-Mangaung. At that point in time, we took a decision consciously, listen, let's not move as quick here, because if we dare tamper with those processes, people will say, we want to hit everybody who does not support us. Let's go to the conference, let it go, we'll deal with these issues post the conference. We went to the conference, we allowed people to have their choices, we didn't tamper with their nomination, we didn't tamper with their lobbying. They nominated, went to conference, there were elections. We are now post the conference, say, let's rectify. That is the phase we're at.
All right. Just talk us through very quickly what's going to happen now. So we see that there's a task team that's going to be in charge of both of these organizations. When we're talking the Provincial of Limpopo, the ANC Youth League, what will happen then?
Then the task team plays the role of the NEC in the Youth League and the role of the PC in Limpopo. But they have a particular task that, listen, rebuild that organization, take the province quicker to a provincial conference or a national conference in the case of the Youth League. so that there is a legitimate structure in place. We don't keep an interim structure for very long because they're not elected, they're appointed, they're given a task. It's there like a project team, if I must explain. To do a particular job, it has a beginning and an end. And in terms of the constitution for a province, it must not go beyond 9 months. And there were cases where we had to extend that time because problem was so deep. You'll remember that we disbanded the Western Cape, we disbanded the Northwest. The problem was so deep that we actually extended that time. And at the end of it, we went to the conference, elected a leadership that is there. I can tell you that if you go to a province like the Northwest again, you can see still the depth of those problems that are still with us there that we're grappling with every day.
Yeah. All right. Gwede, thank you very much for talking to us here on Morning Live and hopefully answering a lot of questions for viewers out there as to what evolved yesterday and over the weekend. We're talking about the ANC Youth League being disbanded as well as the Limpopo government, and Gwede Mantashe giving us the answers, the ANC Secretary General. Thank you very much for joining us on the program.